Hello, welcome back to Vizru's walkthrough series. My name is Ben with my co-host, once again, Milan. And today we have Justin, who's a product manager at Vizru, and he'll be taking us through the process of how to build forms and data lists using Vizru Zeos. Go ahead and take it away, Justin.
Yeah, so hey guys, so in the last video we created a dashboard and spreadsheet, and now what we'll want to do is use the data list to actually display the contents inside the spreadsheet on the dashboard so that we can interact with it. So before we actually get into how we create one, let's look at a sample data list. So this is the data list. Now with the data list, we can represent the data in different ways. Notice on each row how we have a uniform format with the ability to change the colors, the fonts. We could add buttons and icons, and even adding objects like progress bars. And so how you represent the data in the data list is only limited by your imagination. You'll also notice that, yes.
Is a data list more so like a dashboard, or is it a piece of a dashboard, or what's the difference there? Because I see this is kind of, going along with that UI.
Sure. So the data list is actually an object that lives inside a dashboard. So you can think of a dashboard simply as your canvas, right, to paint on, where you organize your objects. And the data list is simply just an object that Vizru provides.
Got it. Thank you.
So you'll notice that on each row, we have checkboxes, and this is an optional feature. But what it allows you to do is actually take action against one or many rows. And so the actions available for this particular task tracker are adding a new task, changing the status, archiving a task, deleting, and also downloading the entire data list into a CSV format. And like any other list, we have the ability to apply filters on top. We can group the data. And a search capability, right? And so after we look at how to actually create a data list, I'll show you how to create a form and connect it to the data list. And so if we click on any record, let's say this one, we can open up a form where you can actually view the data against that record. Notice that the form may have more data points than what is shown inside the data list itself, right? And this is just simply to avoid adding too many data points to the list. Okay, so let's jump right in.
So essentially, we have like all of the data that you're inputting into the form, you can kind of decide what gets displayed versus what is going to be in the record individually.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So the first thing we'll want to do is create our data list. So we'll come over here in the left navigation, create new elements, and we'll select our data list. Okay, so now once we're in the data list builder, we'll go ahead and select our source object. That is, which spreadsheet will we use as a source to represent inside the data list. So we'll want to choose our task list spreadsheet. Okay, and then notice as we chose the task list spreadsheet, the columns in here changed to represent the columns that we actually have in that spreadsheet. Okay, so we'll name this all tasks. And now we're ready to actually start adding fields right inside the data list. So to add a field, we simply click on the content column, and then we'll go ahead and select our task name right here. And if we hit the add button, it'll automatically be displayed inside the content column. So suppose we didn't know how to represent the data. We can actually take advantage of the data list templates to generate ideas. So if we click on templates, these are the templates available for you to use right away, right? And suppose you're looking through and you say, oh, I like this one right here. Okay, so we'll click on use this template. Right, and now all you'll have to do is actually plug in your column names inside each of these right here. And so against each field, we can apply styles. So if I click edit template, here's where you can apply HTML to actually alter the look and feel of the data. If you have a style applied, in this case we do, make sure to use the curly brackets to dynamically populate each row. So maybe I want this to be my task name. We'll hit update, and then we'll use this drop down here. We'll call it task name. Okay, great. And let's just see how that looks. So we can actually save. And what we'll do now is we'll add a new element to our dashboard. And here's the list that we just created. So we can go ahead and add it. All right, and we'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, great. So we'll hit update, and then we'll go ahead and view the dashboard. And this is what it looks like. So right now what we have to do is dynamically populate each of these spots. And you see that I already did here with the task name, right? So we'll go back in edit mode, and we'll go ahead and start plugging in some of these data points.
And so these columns here on this data list that you're creating, that's just where it's placed on the dashboard, correct? It's just kind of the location?
The location within the list, yes.
Okay, got it.
So you could, if you really wanted to, have everything in one individual column rather than splitting it up.
Correct, yes. In some cases, you may not want all 4 columns. So let me show you that. So let's say you just wanted 2 columns. You're able to actually change the size or the width of these content columns right here, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go ahead and move these back. Okay, great. So let's see what we have in here. We have a started date. We have something similar to a started date, which is, let's say the created date. Okay. We'll make sure to mark that as created date. All right, in this one, we have the estimated delivery date, which we also have. So let's see, that is the ETA target date. Go ahead and update that. Now, let's say we didn't want this image that was in here that we saw, we can delete that. Okay, so here we can actually say, okay, assign to team lead. So assign to will actually list the person that it's assigned to, the owner. Okay, great. And then maybe up here, I don't know, maybe you want to put the priority, just as an example. Okay, so we'll go ahead and update now, and we'll see how that looks. Yeah, and as you can see, it's just as simple as that. Using the template and then modifying each of the fields within the template to actually show the data how you want it to be represented. Yeah, very, very intuitive. And one more thing I want to talk about with the data list is actually how to enable real-time. So in the edit mode for the dashboard, if we come down here, you'll notice it says real-time is disabled. If we want to enable it, we'll go ahead and choose append on top, and we'll hit update. So once real-time is enabled, any update to the task spreadsheet will be reflected in real time on this dashboard.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was what exactly is real time? But it's, you don't have to refresh the page, right? It refreshes automatically and per se.
Exactly. So real-time updates in the data list helps improve the user experience by giving the user immediate feedback whenever a change has occurred. So for example, if you were a project manager looking through the task list, you'll be able to see the updates in real time whenever the developers change the statuses on the tasks that they're working on, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go ahead and create a form now against this data list. So once again, the left nav, create new elements, and we'll click on the form. Very similar to the data list builder. Okay, so we'll go ahead and select our spreadsheet task list as our source object. Okay, and we'll name our form. Maybe it's called task. Now the window mode is how much real estate the form will take up once the form is opened. So by default, we have it medium, which takes up about, I would say, about half the screen. You can make it larger if you want, full screen, or you can make it small. And we have different layouts where you can represent the data in. So we can have a 2-column or a 3-column. So let's start adding fields into these layouts. So maybe in the first layout, we'll add the task name. Down here, maybe the owner priority, and maybe down here we'll have the dates in the 3-column. So when it was created, the target date, and then the deadline. Okay, maybe we'll add task type 2 up here. So inside the form itself, you can actually modify the alias. So in the spreadsheet, our task name is represented like this, right? There's no space. But when that's actually shown to the user, you probably want to have a space, right? So we can put spaces in between task name and task type, as well as the created date, ETA target date. Okay, great. Now we'll hit save. So our form is saved. And now what happens is that if you go into edit your data list once again, on the left-hand side, you'll notice that there is a place for you to select your form. So we'll go ahead and select the form that I just created, which is called task. And we'll hit update to dashboard, click view. Now right away, you'll notice that the data list looks a little different. There's an add button here, right? So if we wanted to add a new task inside the data list, we'd click the add button, and then we just fill in the fields in the form.
Okay, and then kind of, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Justin, but if you want to pull back that form up really quickly,
Sure.
Piggybacking off of the last session, I see that it has the drop down that we created in our spreadsheet for task type and priority. So whenever you enter, whether or not you hit real time, right? If you enter this information to the form, will it automatically update the data list and spreadsheet, or do you need to have real time enabled for that?
Sure. So if we're actually adding a new record, right, into the data list, if real time is enabled, we're able to see that task come in real time. So let's actually do that. So we'll say, since real time is enabled, we should see, once we add it, the new task pop up, right? So we'll say, I'll just call it test task. Maybe this is an enhancement. Give it an owner, a priority. Let's say,
and the only reason we have to type in the dates is because we never selected the type in the spreadsheet, right? So if we went back and updated in the spreadsheet, it would give us a date selection.
Exactly. And in fact, let's do that right now, because that's a great observation. So if we go back into our spreadsheet, in our task list spreadsheet, notice that we have multiple date columns, right? Deadline, created date, and ETA. So if we actually change the data type from string to date, and we'll give it a format, maybe month, day, year, and hit update, you'll notice again, this little, the triangle pops up, and if we click on it, we actually get a nice date picker, right? Instead of having to type out the date.
So I'll go ahead and whenever you're updating all of this in the spreadsheet, it'll do it it'll automatically update the form we've already created, as well as the data list, right? So everything kind of just works harmoniously together.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. Great. So we have our 3 dates set as the date data type. Okay. So notice now, if we click, we can input a manual date, just like normal. Or we can use the date picker, right? We can change the month and the year and then actually choose the specific day.
It took like 2 seconds to do as well.
Exactly, yeah, very fast. So our test task. Cool, so once we populated all the fields, we'll go ahead and hit save. And notice how the new row that came up just flashed, my test task. That was because real time was enabled. If it was not enabled, you wouldn't see that come in real time, but instead you'd actually have to refresh the dashboard in order to see that change.
Very nice.
Gotcha. So for forms, is it pretty much just prompting the user to input information in, or are there other functions or uses for it, or is that like its primary use, you would say?
Sure. So for forms, I guess there would be two primary uses for it. One would be to actually add a new record right into the spreadsheet so that then we can represent that in the data list itself. Or let's say that, let's say you're a developer, right? And this is your task list. As you complete tasks or start tasks, you can actually click on the record and then change. Maybe you wanted to change the priority, change the target date, add notes into your task. We're also able to upload files. So the two main ways we use the form, right, are to add new data into the spreadsheet or edit existing data.
Gotcha.
All right, well, thank you to Justin for walking us through the data lists and forms content today. That's all from Milan and I. We'll see you next time on the Visitors Walkthrough series. Thank you.
See you next time. Thanks, guys.